Yay, Connor did the job of hitting the record button. So today on Storytelling on the Plains, we're just going to do a little bit different today with a little bit of roundup, revisiting something, and just a discussion of where we're going. And this is partly due to some family emergency that is now extending into a third week for me, and I just didn't have time to write it. I took my laptop with me to travel to New York, and my laptop broke, so I had no access to anything, and I'm not writing, anywhere between 3,000 and 7,000 words on my phone. I'm not doing that. So,
your thumbs will get a little sore.
Oh yeah, easily, very easily. I do use my phone when I'm on a plane. I tend to write some notes down and some poetry and stuff in the little note app, but we're talking 200 words at best.
Do they let you turn your phone back on after it's on?
Yeah, so you put it in airplane mode, and then you can have it on. Gotcha. And I have a little app that's called Notes. It's just what it's called, is Notes. And because I'm a big old privacy person, I spent probably 3 hours researching note apps that didn't have in-app purchases or ads or any tracking or any of that stuff to get that little note app. And I like it. It's just a basic note app. You type some notes in, save it, good to go. And I don't usually use my phone at all on the plane. I do have a couple of games on the plane, but there's a 4-hour stretch from Denver to Newark where I'm just by myself. I'm just zoning out. Most of the time I'm looking out the window. I did write a little poem this time about, what I see out the window, and 40 years of flying, and I still love looking out the window and seeing what's below.
It's nice to have the window seat. I always hate it when I didn't have it.
Yeah.
I always hated it.
And Paul and I fight over it, so a lot of times we're like, okay, on the way there, you get the window seat, and on the way back, I get it. Okay.
Jason and I do that too.
Yeah. But I love the window seat because, the view's different. And even though I take the Denver to Newark flight, it's relatively the same flight path, but even if they're off by like 10, 15 feet, that the flight has been altered, well, that's a slightly different view that I get to look at.
Yeah.
And like this time when I came home, they came up from the east. So I thought at first, I'm like, that looks like the sugar factory. And I'm like, oh, no, that's Minutair. So we were coming in a different way. Mm-hmm. And when I came back the last time, they flew directly over the monument. So that's cool. Kind of depends on whatever's going on. I know there's a whole bunch of variables that go into that, but they can land from the east or the west. And so I get a different view depending on, what's going on.
I rarely get to take off from here. I usually take off from Denver. Oh. I think I only got to take off from here once in my life, and it was in a terrifying airplane, so my eyes were shut most of the time.
Those terrifying prop planes that they used to have from here?
It was like a tin can.
Yeah. We stopped using those, and we started driving out of Denver, and we now have United Express, so it's a jet. And everybody was like, "Ooh, we even got a toilet in the jet," and I'm thinking it's a 25-minute flight, dude. Even on a slow day, it's 40 minutes. You can hold it,
right?
But still, there's a toilet on the jet. They can hold 50 people.
Yeah, my husband says it's nice.
He's used it. Yeah, it is a nice jet. It shortens the time down there, and calculating the cost, it was something like $50 more to fly out of here. And to me, $50 is worth it, that I don't have to spend 3 hours after I've just been on a flight all day driving back home and dealing with traffic and all of that stuff. To me, it's worth the $50. And I think a 2-hour layover is the longest layover I've had between Denver and Scottsbluff. Mm-hmm. And it's a little over 3 hours to drive. So
That's true. And Denver's pretty nice.
Yeah.
The airport.
Mm-hmm. I usually get to my gate, and now I've done this trip enough times, I know roughly where the gate's going to be, and if it changes, it's like one number. Like, it's not gate 80, it's gate 81. But I get down there, and then, okay, how much time do I have? And then I'll wander, and I'll more than meet my steps for the day.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things.
Yeah,
out there.
It's another nice relaxing time, because then it's another 2 hours. I'm just left alone. I'm chilling out, and I can just sit and think. Sometimes I write when my laptop isn't broken, but.
Yeah, I might have to get back into. I don't know. I'm so much into car rides. I love just driving.
Car rides are awesome too. Driving. Well, the problem is, so from door to door. So from my door to my mom's door in New York is a 28-hour car ride if you go straight through. Ride.
Be very pretty though. Imagine what all you'd see.
There's a lot of cool things to look at, and when you get across the interstate in Ohio, it's 80, 90, and you can stay on 80 and then pick up 84 to go to my hometown, or you can stay on 90 just for a teeny bit and then get on Highway 17 in northern New York, and you drive through two reservations. It's absolutely gorgeous, full of trees. And I take that trip. It's supposed to be longer than taking I-80, but I think Pennsylvania is in perpetual construction phase. I have never driven I-80 where I wasn't slowed down by construction.
Kind of like, I forgot the number. It was in Sioux City. The highway in Sioux City, Iowa. It goes right through the middle of it, and anyone that's from the east side knows exactly what I'm talking about, because it was always under construction up until recently. They finally finished it, and I went across it expecting what I was expecting, the whole rigmarole and nothing. I was like, oh my God, it's finally finished.
You want to turn around and keep going back and forth.
I almost did. Yeah, it's finally finished. So yeah, if you're from the east side of Nebraska, you know exactly which one I'm talking about to go through Sioux City.
And that's I swear that's the way Pennsylvania was. And also from Ohio at the time, I don't know if the speed limits have changed, but Ohio it was 65, Pennsylvania was 55 on the interstate. You cross the border and you go downhill, and at the bottom of the hill there's always cops there, because you can't get down to 55 quick enough before they can tag you and give you a ticket. And that just ticked me off enough that I was like, okay, fine, screw you. I'm going to go up and drive through pretty country. And so I did. So if you ever do that drive, take 17 and come down that way to New York. Yeah, it's technically longer, but it's not longer because you're not sitting in a car cursing going, why are we moving 2 inches an hour? Anyway, that's way off.
I'll have to take your advice when we're heading out east.
Yeah. But so the drive is 28 hours by car, and door to door flying is 12. When you include the layovers, because there's a little bit of a layover in Denver, and then I land in Newark, and then it's a 90-minute drive north. So I still do the fly-in because I don't want to do the drive-in. You drive for 14 hours, sleep in a hotel, drive for 14 hours, give your mom a hug and a kiss, and then you go to sleep again because you're so tired. So you easily lose 2 days.
And it's all about what you're trying to get accomplished.
Yes.
Jason and I usually, our vacations is the entire trip. It's not just like the destination or one place.
Yeah, and I've done that before too. I'll tell Paul I'm going out today. Where are you going? I don't know. North. And I'll just periodically text him and say I'm at this spot now. So because I am a woman alone, just randomly driving around, I generally stay in western Nebraska or eastern Wyoming so that I can make it back home by the end of the night, but I'll just randomly go places. But I
need to put like something dead and hanging off your car, and people will leave you alone out here. That's really is a trick. Maybe a Confederate flag, and people will just be like, "Oh hell no!"
They'll be like, "I'm not going near her at all."
A little rabbit skull as your little head ornament. That's what you need. That's all I need. People will leave you alone.
I'll get a jackalope skull.
There you go. There you go. So people leave you alone. They won't touch you.
So we don't have an episode technically for you today. This is an episode, but you're not going to learn too much new. I'm just going to update on a couple of things that I am working on. One of which I am working on is Ida McCombsey. And if you remember, we slightly talked about her with Dr. Fix. Mm-hmm. And I have all the notes. They're on my laptop. So
those are all retrievable, right?
Yeah, and technically they're not on my laptop. They're on my USB drive. The notes are on my home server, and I copied them to the USB drive, was going to work on them on my laptop and have the episode done when I got back, and everything broke. So I got back, and there was no time for me to write anything. I could do a crappy episode on her right now and talk about her, but it's going to be crap, and I'm not going to do that.
Okay, don't do it.
And I just didn't have access to any other computers. I know y'all are saying it's 2025, but I did not have access to computers other than my laptop, which was broken and made me cry. I almost snapped it in half, and I'm like, no, because it is fixable. I just need help getting it fixed, and if I snap it in half, it's not fixable, and I don't have money for a new laptop. So that's why we didn't. And partly
just calm down.
Yeah,
calm down.
And partly the family emergency, and I use writing to kind of take me out of what was going on, and I didn't have that outlet. I did handwrite some stuff, but not the episode. So it was really stressful. And when I got back last night, what did I text you? It was like 6 or 7, I think.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, I can't get this done because to write it and proofread it properly takes me 6-7 hours. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I can't do this, not if I want to get it done right. So we decided not to do it right. But I do have enough stuff for updates. I met with the folks at Legacy of the Plains. Mm-hmm. They are going to be doing an exhibit on Hubert Bishop, also known as the Great Miss Bish.
Yeah.
I took a chance and I asked them, I said, hey, if you guys still have her dresses, can I get pictures of them? Because
can I wear one?
No. Oh, God, no. Somebody would ask, are you okay, Irene? Why do you want to wear a dress?
No, me.
Oh, you want to? Okay, sweet. Oh.
It's not meant for you. It's meant for us.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. So they pulled the dresses out. I got pictures. And then I asked them, I said, do you guys still have the traveling pump organ? And because like I had said, when you walked into Legacy and you turned around from the front doors and looked up, they got a little landing with a display up there. Mm-hmm. And the organ was up there, so I've never seen the organ. And they go, it's right behind you. I turned around, they freaking had it open. They had it open and set up, so not only did I get to see it, I got to see it set up.
Oh.
I took lots of pictures, so I will show them to you. It was
But
this
awesome. Is an exhibit I can go see.
Yes.
So it's there.
Yeah. And I'll let people know at the beginning of an episode when they finally do get it all done and sorted and stuff. Yeah. They ran into a lot of the same problems we ran into tracing Hubert's history. Mm-hmm. And they found versions where his mom Annabelle was called. Now I forgot. See, I should have wrote it down. But she was called something else, so they were like, why are you called it? And it wasn't even like, her name's Annabelle, so they call her Anna or Belle. They called her something completely different. So like you wouldn't call me Irene, you would call me like Claire. It'd be like, well, where the heck does that come from? So I had mentioned, I go, oh God, yeah, I completely forgot about that. Yep, that happened.
Excuse me.
They also came across the discrepancies I had come across with his death date, and because they found 2 sources with the wrong date, but 3 or 4 with the right date. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what I did too.
Yep.
And then one site had his middle initial wrong, and I'm like, yeah, no, his middle initial was C, not B. But they had access to some ancestry stuff that I didn't. So Hubert's dad's name was Seymour, and they were still kind of murky about how Dad died. They're still trying to figure that out. And I'm like, well, you got his name. I was never able to get his name. And he did have 3 sisters, so I know we were a little unclear about that.
Yep.
Because of the census recordings. They had access to some more data, and the reason why they're dropping off is because they're moving to someplace else. It wasn't a mistake with the census data. It was just that sister moved someplace else. And then they also found Hubert's marriage certificate.
Oh, wow.
So his mom died, and less than a year later, he got married. So we had a conversation down there about why was it so soon? Was it a case of, did Hubert have something like ADHD or something, some mental health diagnosis that he needed someone to help him? And it had to be family, and Mom has passed on. Did he find a lady that he fell in love with?
Yeah.
Because we don't know, and we'll never know, was he just a cross-dresser and that was something he did for fun? Or, today, would he have become trans? We don't, not become trans. Would he have been trans? We don't know.
Or just a modern drag queen.
Yeah, or would he just be a drag queen and hanging out with RuPaul? We don't know. We don't have the information there, but it was curious that not long after Mom died, he got married. And they stayed married, and they had a couple of kids. And he died in Lincoln, and we were looking at the dates, and they were confused on some of the dates for the obituary, and it said, Hubert C. Bishop's funeral is pending, blah, 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 and it had the correct death date. And I said, okay, he died in Lincoln. He's buried in Elmwood Cemetery in Broken Bow. 1920s, it's going to take a couple days to get there. And then I also explained to them that when I worked for the paper, you'll get a pending obit in. So it'll say, Irene North died today. Services are pending. Mm-hmm. And then that's basically to just let everybody know, hey, Irene's dead. And then you get the full obituary later. And by later, at least today, it's anywhere from a few hours to a few days. Mm-hmm. And it just depends on, like for my mom and her fiance, they have they have their funerals paid for, so that obituary is already written. There would be a pending, and then somebody would call me from the funeral home, and then I would just look it over and add or subtract or, change, whatever. And I could literally get the full one in same day. But for when I worked at the Star Herald, most people it was the next day or the day after you got the full.
Yeah, it takes some time.
Yeah. So I just told them that the announcement that they had, because they didn't have the full obit. But I said that's perfectly normal. That, what was it? He died January 3rd, and it was in the January 5th paper that the services were pending. And I'm like, well, he died in Lincoln. And, sorry, it wasn't the 1920s. It was 1940s when he died. You got to get him to the funeral home in Broken Bow, and they need to get things moving. So, and even in the 40s, not everybody had phones. I'm sure funeral home to funeral home, they had a phone.
Yeah.
But even then, it's still limited service. A lot of people forget everything wasn't as instant as it is today.
Party lines.
Yeah. We had a party line.
Sometime we need to do a whole piece on party lines.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have definitely How did you get anything done with party lines?
Can you please hang up?
Everybody hang up. This is an emergency.
So it makes sense. He died on the 3rd. And let's just say he died on the 3rd and they found him on the 3rd because he was 84. In Lincoln, you still got to take him to the hospital, to the morgue, get all that paperwork done. Then you got to be like, okay, where's he going? Oh, he's going to Broken Bow, halfway back across the state. It's not quite halfway. Anyway, I think Broken Bow's like 4 hours from here.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, so maybe
well,
about
I'm not going to
halfway.
say nothing no more, otherwise my mother's going to correct me again.
Oh, okay, Kim, be nice.
Apparently, we mixed Fort Laramie with Laramie.
Oh.
I didn't know. So
Bite
no.
me.
I'm telling.
Connor's going to go tell his mom on me.
She'll be listening.
I'm not sure of the exact distance. I think it's around 4 hours. But anyway, you're going from Lincoln several hours away today. Now you got to go back to the 40s where you probably not paved roads there. They're probably still dirt roads. So it was in the 5th's paper. And if you think about it, he died on the 3rd. They had to have called by deadline on the 4th to get that in. So it was just a day to get the pending in. And you'll see that today. I know someone who just lost a friend, and it was like a week before the obituary was in.
Yeah. And it was, and of course, it was rough to get it in, get it all situated.
Yeah.
And well, there's other things about that too.
Because there's always some unique circumstances with each one why it takes so long. So it wasn't anything unusual. I basically just gave a little bit of info to the archivist that this is kind of how it works and why it took so long.
Well, my grandmother-in-law, she died, it'd be about 4 weeks almost now, and she still hasn't had the death certificate.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. So yeah.
Yeah. And this is, I don't know if it's unique to New York, but the funeral home asked me, when your mom passes, how many death certificates will you need? I'm like, oh.
Well, because you never know.
Yeah. And so he would ask me some questions, and we came up with probably 5, so we went with 7.
Yeah, because you have to give them all sorts of things and
people and he said
companies.
And he said generally the banks, you show it to them, they make a copy, and then you're good to go. You can take the original back. And I go, well, let's count that as 1, just in case when my mom does pass that the bank may change their policy by then and say, hey, we want to keep it. And then I won't be stressing out and freaking out.
Yeah.
But we figured there were 5 different places we would have to notify. And I had said, Social Security. And he's like, oh, no, we do that. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, we notify Social Security, stop paying. I'm like, okay, what about her New York State pension? Nope, we'll do that too. So I'm like, okay, so there's 2 that I don't have to do.
That's nice.
Which is nice.
It is nice because it becomes a problem later.
Yeah.
Finding out with our family.
I know when we were in England, when my husband's mother died, they were like, I think they were £7 each, which is a little less than $10. I'm not doing conversions. But anyway, they were £7. It's not that much. We bought a whole bunch, and then he needed more later, and because we didn't get enough in that big stack, we didn't get a discount, and then it was almost twice the price to get more. But we didn't know. That was our first go round with needing death certificates, and I thought I would need them now. And the funeral home director, at least in New York, I can't say for Nebraska, but at least in New York, the funeral home takes care of that. So when Mom passes, I don't even need to notify Social Security or the New York State Pension Fund. It'll just be done. And I'm like, sweet. So that was my Miss Bish adventure. Got a little bit more info, so I took pictures. They had printed up more detailed census info than even I had when I wrote the original story. I took a picture of his marriage certificate, and I told them I think I still have a picture of his letter that he wrote that said, I can't be drafted into World War II because I have to take care of my family. And as best as we can tell, he never went and fought in the war. Because at that time, his mom was elderly, she wasn't doing well, and he had sisters. And, if you send him off, all these women are going to be left alone. So I don't think he went. I was never able to find any information about him going. So that's a little update on Miss Bish. Someone else had given me some information about Ronald Reagan, that he was here in the 60s. And they sent me a picture, and it was from 1967. So I went to the Reagan archives, and I have an audio recording from June 24th, 1967, of Reagan talking to folks in Scotts Bluff. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but it's freely available, and I downloaded the MP3, put it on my hard drive, because I figured if I finished that other episode, I could get to work on Reagan. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. So I still haven't listened to it, but I have that. So I went to Legacy and asked them, and Eleanor, who is a fantastic volunteer down there, she's always given me lots and lots of good stories. Anyway, she comes back with a picture with him with, was it Governor Thone? Is that how you said his name? Thune? Yeah, I don't know how you say his name. But anyway, it was from October 1978. And I go, okay, so Ronald Reagan was in Scotts Bluff twice. And literally all the museum has is that picture. And it just says he was supporting Thune. I didn't live here in 1978, so I don't know how you pronounce the guy's name. I'll figure it out by the time we do an episode on that.
Was he the last president to come into the town?
I think so, because you got Reagan. George Bush wasn't out here. Clinton was not out here.
Obama never went out here.
George W. Bush was not out here, and Trump was not out here. So I think Reagan was the last one.
Trump got to Cheyenne. I think that's as close. Wasn't he in Cheyenne?
I don't remember. I just know he didn't come out here.
No, he never came out here.
So Reagan is like the last president that came to Scotts Bluff. So now I know that he was here in 67 and 78. 78, the picture had a little caption that he was here supporting Thune for his governor run. So, okay, that makes sense. The former governor of California is supporting this other dude. That makes sense. But when he came in 67, Reagan had been elected governor of California in January, and then he was in Scotts Bluff in June. And I don't know why. I'm sure when I listen to that speech, I'll know why. But I need to go to the library and do some research, because Legacy also only has Star Heralds through 61. I did pull the Gearing Courier from 67, and I took a picture of, it's like a 2-paragraph blurb that just says, Reagan was here. So it's not very helpful. I'm hopeful that the library still has their microfilm, microfiche from then, and that I can look at 67 and 78 and get some more details, because I've got exact dates. It's just I can't find more details. So I plan on doing an episode on that. And then I know I mentioned before Barb Netherland, she sent me some information, gave me a contact for who to talk to about Llewellyn, because she knew I was going to do something on Ash Hollow. We just haven't gotten there yet, because it's going to be one of our bigger episodes. And she said, this person knows everything about Llewellyn. If you need to do anything on Llewellyn, you need to do that. And I was thinking maybe one day, because the lady that she pointed me to owns The Most Unusual Place, I think it's called, and it's some big old art gallery place in Llewellyn. And I thought if there was a day where you had nothing to do, we could get in my car and I could scare the hell out of you because I drive like a New Yorker, and maybe go down there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Ash Hollow, we're gonna get an episode on that. It's just every time I start doing something, I'm like, oh, I need to add this, I need to add this, I need to add this. So that's gonna be a big one too. And Barb gave me some contact info on all of that, and then she contacted a gentleman that lives in Wyoming. I forget which state, not too far from us. It's not as far as Casper. I can't remember. Anyway, apparently, according to Barb, he knows more about the overland trails than anybody she's ever met, and he sent her some information on the trails, and then some information on Fleming Dun, which is one of those, when you go out to Robidoux and there's the 5 unmarked graves, literally like 50, 60 feet past that, there's a cross, and Fleming Dun is buried there, and there's like a little sign there. If I'm remembering everything correctly.
I actually think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
We just haven't gotten to writing about Robidoux Pass and the unmarked graves. Bite me. And bite me too, Kim, if you're listening, because I'm going to say it the way I want to. I see. This is my sole reason for wanting to meet Pierre Gasly, the Formula One driver, because he's French, and I'm just going to put that word in front of him and be like, "How do you say it?"
That's exactly how he'd say it.
So those are the things I got going. I have several other files that I've collected notes and just haven't had time to write anything yet. Man, if I could have Pierre Gasly just sit down here and talk, I'll be like, hey, it has nothing to do with Western Nebraska. Don't care. Don't care. Get to talk to Pierre.
We're both just falling in love with your accent right now.
Yeah.
Just like,
And he's such a nice guy, and in a lot of ways he's been an inspiration for me. He's been through a lot in his life, and his start to his Formula One career, it was basically really bad. So Formula One, you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You have free practice 1 and 2 on Friday, Saturday free practice 3, qualifying, and then the race on Sunday. And between Friday and Saturday, he was demoted from Red Bull back to their junior team, and I'm still, he was young and cocky, so he clashed a bit with, like, Adrian Newey, who is, like, the icon of car engineering. It would be like if God existed and he came down and told you to do something, you were like, yeah, no, I know how to do it better. It kind of like that. But he's devastated. He's there. He's done free practice 1 and 2, and then he finds out. So he's literally, there's this famous picture of him sitting at this table, probably 70 or 80 microphones in his face, and all these people crowding around him, talking to him. And you can just see it on him. He's not good at hiding how he was feeling. And he's got to answer all these questions. And then the F2 support race was Saturday, which happens after qualifying. And his best friend was killed during the race that day. And I'm just like, how do you pick yourself up from that? And this happened in 2018, and he's still going. He has Antoine's initials on his helmet. And I find inspiration from a lot of the drivers, like Charles Leclerc. He has Papa on one side. His dad died just before he got the call up to F1, and on the other side, oh my God, now his name, his godfather, and I could see his face now because I was watching the race where he was killed, and he has both of them on his helmet all the time as a remembrance of, these are the two guys that helped get me here. And just that they've grown into very humble, compassionate young men. And I say young men, even though they're both near 30 now. They're young men. I'm going to be 55. They're young men. I do that too. I tell people you're my young friend as well. You probably don't feel young anymore.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
I still feel young because people will ask me, how old are you going to be? And then they think that they've been rude. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm actually trying to think how old I am.
I thought I was older on my birthday, and Jason had to remind me I wasn't. A year younger than I was. So I'm like, yes.
Yes, you got an extra year. So if I could have Pierre Gasly come to Scottsbluff, Nebraska, and tell me how to say all the stuff that's written in French here, I'll take it. He could be a podcast episode. We would get views then, for sure.
David Attenborough or...
Yes.
He could do it very well.
But the unmarked graves and the trading post and that other grave there, I just don't know if that's going to be like 3 separate episodes or all one big episode, because I don't have all the notes together to have written it yet. But that's on my agenda for the near future as well. And, I'm open to anything anybody has. You just shoot us a message.
Yeah.
And let us know if you know something, because there's tons of things here, like, Amanda Lammy that we just did. I've driven past that historical marker I don't know how many times, and for some reason when we drove past it last month, I finally stopped and read it, and then I wanted to know more, and I went and I found all the information that's out there. And I told the folks down at Legacy that there's an archivist, his name is Caden, and the intern archivist is named Reagan. And I was telling them about the whole story of Amanda Lammy, and they were like, no way. And I go, yeah, but it's in Box Butte County, so you kind of don't have to worry about it. And he's like, oh, okay. But it's still an interesting story, and I know there's tons more stories out there. We have a huge list. This is just the current things that I'm working on. I got a few irons in the fire. Is that the term?
There you go, irons in the fire.
Yeah, trying to use an old-timey term, and I'm not quite old-timey yet. One day I'm going to call somebody a whippersnapper, and they won't know what I'm talking about, and that's when I'll officially be old.
Or worse, they'll come back as something very offensive.
Yeah.
Which actually it probably is, if you think about it.
Yeah. And
Too late.
I'm not gonna dwell on this. I'm just gonna say it, and then I'm gonna move on and change the subject. But I didn't learn till I was well into my 20s what dingleberries were, and I had no idea that it was so offensive. And so whippersnapper probably is something offensive that I don't know.
Probably.
Talk to a etymologist. Entomologist is English, right?
Sure.
And entomologist is insects. Etymologist is language. Anyway, I think that's...
You have to use big words like obtuse pizza flotsam. That's a good insult. Obtuse pizza flotsam.
Yeah. Or battery horse staple. And unless you read XKCD, you don't know what that means. That was a great password, though, and then I couldn't use it because XKCD used it, and now it's out there, so I had to change it.
Damn it.
I had to stop using the password FU, except for it was actually the word, because I had that at the Star Herald. So if I had problems, someone from IT would ask, well, what's your password?
Whoops.
And the whole reason I did that was because every 30 days we had to change our password. And I was just so angry one day. I was just like, F you! And that was my password. And then I couldn't remember what it was for whatever reason. And
IT keeps hanging up on me for some reason. Keep giving my password, and they just hung up.
Yeah. And so if they had let me use a more secure password, I would have. But I have to change it every 30 days, and it takes me like 30 days to remember my password.
Yeah.
So my password when I was at the Star Herald went back to Star Herald 1, Star Herald 2, Star Herald 3, and when I got to 9, I had Star Herald 0, and then Star Herald 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, just kept going up in numbers because I had so many accounts just with the Star Herald that I had to log into for researching stuff, and then my own personal passwords, and then, what? I got to change this one every 30 days? No, I'm not doing that. Anyway. While I was looking at the newspapers for Reagan, I came across something, I forget what it is now, but it has to do with Terry Carpenter. So I took a picture of it. I need to get that to you so that, because I know Terry's going to be a very, very,
scary Terry.
Yeah, he's going to be several episodes when we do get to him. And that's the whole thing. You know, it's obvious we're going to do Scottsbluff National Monument. Mm-hmm. But when you think about it, you need to do the history. You need to talk about the superintendents. You need to talk, I don't think we've done we did a completely separate episode on Hiram Scott, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the first ones.
One of the first ones we did. Yeah. And then you need to talk about, you know, the importance of the monument, you know, because the history is just, here's the history of when the land that we're literally sitting on used to be underwater all the way to the present, kind of like we did in our first episode, but for the whole panhandle, we have to do that for the monument for an episode. So that's the history. Mm-hmm. And then we need to do a history of the monument, things that went on there. When I wrote that book on the monument, I had stuff I had to leave out because we just didn't have room. We were given a page count, and you have to fit all this stuff in this number of pages. And I would have never thought about it before I did that book, but the superintendents at the monument have fascinating stories to tell. And there's a lady that worked at the monument as a park ranger, and I need to double check my research, but when the article went in the newspaper and I talked with the folks at the monument, the superintendent at the time checked as best as he could. We're pretty sure she was like the first female ranger here.
Yes.
And I want to double check that and make sure it's as accurate as possible. But she's her own episode. She was an awesome lady. I mean, granted, we could probably do an episode on every park ranger that has ever gone through the monument. But just in general, just what I've said, we're looking at easily a 4-part series for the monument, and I want to do it right. So if we do anything that's more than a 1-parter, just know that I have spent weeks poring over it and trying to get it right. But for today, we've kind of rambled on a lot. The things I have written down are hopefully the things we get to relatively soon. I can't guarantee Reagan because if the library has everything I'm looking for, I could get that written in a couple of weeks. But if I got to do more research, then I'm going to have to call out to the Reagan Library and ask questions and wait for a historian to get back to me. And then I don't know enough about presidential libraries if they're government run. And with all the turmoil in the government now, are things getting shut down, or is it privately run, or is it run by volunteers? I don't know enough about presidential libraries, but if I need to call out there and say, hey, I'm looking for this info, they'll find it, because Legacy gets those calls all the time. Hey, we're looking for XYZ. Yeah. And they'll say, okay, yeah, no problem. And then it might take a few days to get back to it. I mean, at least I can be nice to the folks at Legacy because I usually already know where it's at. So I'll be like, hey, I need, the January 25th, 1942 edition of the Star Herald. And they'll go pull it for me, and then I can look at it in their special reading room for the books, because I usually know where everything is. Mm-hmm. And Legacy is still archiving a bunch of stuff. So some stuff they know where it is, but it's a little harder to get at just because of where it's stored. But they can still get at it. So anyway, that's me rambling for today. Thank you, Connor, for sitting with me and giving me a week off. If things go a better way, I'm going to try and get a couple things written this week. try and get us a little ahead. But
if not, we're gonna ramble some more at you.
Yeah, we'll just sit here, blah blah blah.
You're at our mercy.
That's right. We'll spend the entire episode next time talking about the snake skeleton in my window.
There you go.
I don't know if I've ever shown that to you.
No.
It was here when we moved in, and it's just kind of there. Same. I've been thinking about finding like a little case, like, you know, that you put baseballs in. Keeping it in there. The only problem is when you drop down to the cellar window, I'm not tall enough to get back out without help. So I can't do it by myself.
Kind of defeats the purpose of the egress window, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I keep saying I'm going to go to Menards and get a stool because I don't want to be alone in the house and one of these two windows be the only ways for me to get out without burning to death. My cats would be able to jump up there no problem and get out.
They'll
but
just look at you.
Yeah, they'll be like, hey, you all right, Irene? I'll be like, no, I'm burning to death. So one day I will go get some step stools so that I can get out of my house if it catches fire. But that's it for us on Storytelling on the Plains for this week. I promise we will have an episode for you next week. In the meantime, enjoy, hopefully, your nicer weather wherever you're at. It is the last week of March, so I hope everybody has pleasant weather, and we'll be back next time. I'm Irene.
And I'm Connor.
And this is Storytelling on the Plains. Hey folks, Irene here. Just wanted to add a little bit to the end of the episode here. We are going to take a couple-week break. We're already late with this episode, which it wasn't a regular episode. Just to let you all know, my mom was in a head-on collision about 9 months ago and took a very bad turn for the worse. And I had just gotten back from seeing her 2 days before, and then as of recording this, she passed away about a week ago, and I am in the process of making plans to fly back to New York for the funeral. So if you are listening to this for the first time, as soon as we put it up, I hope to be back the last Wednesday in April or the first Wednesday in May. I'm going to try and get a couple of episodes written by then, but we have not stopped recording. We're not stopping the podcast. We just need a little break till I can get back here in New York and get some episodes written, and then we'll get back to telling you more stories about living on the Great Plains here in western Nebraska. Until then, I'm Irene, and this is Storytelling on the Plains.